If you've played any amount of multiplayer Minecraft, you'll most likely have seen some kind of cape on a player, and possibly even have owned one yourself. There's a bunch of capes mostly given by mods, with the classic Optifine Cape, 5-zig capes, and more recently the introduction of Badline and Lunar Client capes, amongst others. However, all these capes are given by unofficial, third-party modifications to the game. Minecon Capes are the most famous example of official capes, a cosmetic meant to only be claimable from any one of the official Minecons in various locations around the world. But as some of you may know, there are a few more capes given to only specific groups of people or individuals. So today I'm going to take you through everything you need to know about all the official Minecraft capes, from Minecon Capes to capes that were only concept, and from why they were created to the history of them afterwards. I'm going to start with the Minecon Capes and move through ending with the rarest cosmetics, so make sure to watch the whole video for the most interesting information. I have also included timestamps in the video description if you'd rather skip through the video like that. So without further ado, please make sure to subscribe and enjoy the video. Before I get any further into the video, I would like to preface it by saying FitMC did a very similar video to this, but I found that he did leave out a few details and there were a few inaccuracies in the video. So as I have a bunch of friends and connections within the OG Minecraft community, I thought I'd make a much more detailed and accurate video on all of the capes in Minecraft. As I mentioned before, Minecon Capes were only obtainable at each of the official Minecons, held in either England, America or France. But players found ways to sell and trade for these cosmetics. The 2011 Cape is a distinct difference to the other Minecons in that when you entered the convention, your account name was recorded and the cape placed on your account during the event, meaning that there was very few applied after the event. The later capes were redeemed via a code sent to your email. This meant that you could use them on any account you wanted or could just be left dormant. This led to people either giving them to friends or creating businesses out of them by selling the codes. The codes increased heavily in value over time. A 2016 Cape code sold straight after the event was valued at around $50 to $100, but now would sell for upwards of $500, and a 2012 code would go for at least $1.5 thousand. Of course, there have been many cases of people selling their account with the cape pre-applied, and even times where accounts have been hacked and stolen from the original owners. They were later sold for several $100s depending on which year's code the account had, and in many cases how many capes the account had. You can claim multiple Minecon capes on any account, which in some cases led to accounts with 4 capes such as Dog or Kiwi, and even a few with all 5 such as Red. Moving on to the rarer capes now. Realms capes are the only special cape that can technically be claimed by any player. They are given to builders or content creators who have helped create maps or builds for Minecraft Realms. There is a few specific criteria for this though, and many builds and maps are sometimes required to be accepted. Over the years though, as with all capes and accounts, people have found exploits and ways to get the cape for themselves easier. People would pay well-known map makers who already had a cape to credit them in the map submission, as the map maker didn't need any more points, so there was no reason not to. The Mojang team did however catch on to this method, and it caused a lot of drama in cape removals in the Realms community. There have been many Realms accounts that have been sold, but those listed scarcely lasted a week, as they are usually owned by less experienced owners. There has however been a few that lasted longer in the past. This cape would have placed much higher in the rankings back at release, but they're not as special as they used to be, as there's over 150 handed out to various players now. Mojang Capes have easily the simplest history behind them. They're given to the workers at Minecraft's original owner, Mojang. There are however 2 types of Mojang Cape. The red cape design has been used since October 2015 and it's the more common one, with over 120 owners. But the brown variant is much rarer and it's only used for the original Mojang team with 14 owners. Most accounts with the brown cape also have a red version, but there are a few exceptions, presumably for those who stopped working at Mojang before the newer variant was given out. There's been barely any record of these accounts being hacked or stolen, but there is a couple exceptions. For example, back in late 2018, the account VinName Class was accessed by a hacker relatively known in the Minecraft community. As this is a Mojang staff team member's account, it didn't take long to realize that the account would soon be locked or returned to its original owner. So knowing this, the account's name was changed to CloutmanDXN so as to leave a lasting record on the account. And lo and behold, 2 days later, the name was falsely returned to VinName Class, and became both one of the only accessed Mojang accounts, but also one of the only accounts with 2 name changes in such quick succession. The Translator Cape is when things really start to get interesting. 29 of these capes were originally handed out to certain people who helped translate the game in the project Mojang dubbed the Crowdin Translator program. After these first capes, Jeb began to notice abusive behaviour in the form of some translators using auto-translators, and in some cases even downvoting real translations on the website. So because of this, the cape was temporarily halted, but resumed in 2016 after these issues died down. Now nearly 100 users have the original version of this cape. The interesting part of the story comes with the next 2 capes. the first being the Chinese variant of the cape. At a glance, the capes are identical, but if you look closely, on the underside of the cape you can see a Chinese flag. Predictably, this was given to 3 users who heavily assisted in the translation to various forms of Chinese, a massive task well deserving of some sort of variation in the cape. The final Translator Cape is the first of several capes I'll refer to as solo capes, as they're only owned by one single account in the entirety of Minecraft, and they're ones with by far the most story behind them. Cheapshot's cape has a very similar beginning story to the Chinese Translator Capes, and features a small Japanese flag on the underside of the cape. He was the sole translator for a relay Mojang was at Tokyo in 2013. Seeing as nobody came close to helping with Japanese translation as Cheapshot did, no other Japanese Translator Capes were awarded. But that's not where Cheapshot's story ends. In late 2019, he went to Twitter to explain that his account had been stolen. The tweet reads, "I thought I was good at the internet, but nope. I got scammed by someone and had my Minecraft account stolen. I got an email from what I thought was support@mojang.com, but on closer inspection it was mojang.cam. He also attached a picture of the email where you can see he was asked to input several pieces of information, such as his security questions, original email, password, and transaction ID. All of these were used to swiftly hijack the account from him, but little is known about who the culprit was. As of 2020, Cheapshot has either had the account returned to him or is in the process of receiving it." The Mojira Moderator Capes were given to moderators and important members of Mojang's Mojira bug tracking team. Obviously, everyone can report bugs and issues in the game, but the capes are only given to those who are extremely active and have helped find major issues with the game. There isn't any way to apply for this cape, as it's only given to those who Mojang select, and therefore became very rare back in 2014, but now in 2020 there's over 40 of them. In terms of the market, very few have ever made it there, as finding anyone willing to sell one is very difficult. The original owners are essentially Mojang's helpers, and even when they have, most legitimately sold accounts haven't lasted. The Cobalt Cape is my personal favourite special cape, and it was given out to winners or high-ranking participants of tournaments in Mojang's earlier game Cobalt. Many of the codes though were sold on or given away at the beginning. This is most likely how Fox became one of the only 6 cape accounts, boasting every Minecon Cape plus a Cobalt Cape. An interesting fact about these codes is that back when they were created, many were sold for nothing above $100, but in recent times it's estimated that they go for upwards of thousands of dollars. But once all the codes have been applied, 20 accounts were left with the cape. But now, as several have been locked or are owned by Mojang employees, only 15 can be accessed. The Scrolls Cape have a very similar story to the Cobalt Capes. On December 11th and 12th of 2014, every player was shown with a cape to celebrate the release of Mojang's new game, Scrolls. It was later announced that any player who achieved a weekly first place winner badge 5 times was given access to the cape on their Minecraft accounts. Now, not counting Mojang employees, only 8 players have this cape. When it comes to hacking and selling these accounts, there have only been 1 or 2 cases of it, but both have a very confusing history, so don't take anything you hear about them too seriously. One case of a Scrolls account being hacked involved it being stolen from the original owner and sold on a website called MC Market for a sizable amount. It was then recovered later on and sold once more. There are Reddit posts here and there from 2015 which detail other accounts being hacked, but it's very difficult to confirm much about these cases. However, I can say for certain that barely any of these accounts have ever reached the market, and most users with it rarely play anymore. The Bacon Cape was the first ever personalised special cape Mojang created, and it was given to the user McLee. I don't want to go into too much detail about this one, as Fit did a great job explaining this one in his video, but the important thing to note is that this cape stirred up a lot of drama in the community. McLee was given this for suggesting the idea of pigment, which Notch loved. But after thousands of emails and letters were sent to Notch of players begging for their own capes, it was decided that it should be removed and that there shouldn't be any more solo capes made. This of course wasn't the case. The Millionth customer cape is where things really start to get interesting. The solo capes all had very important reasons behind why they were given, and they're incredibly sought after in the community. Regardless, Jeb knew that the game was fast approaching 1 million downloads, so he asked Notch for permission to create a special cape for the lucky millionth customer of the game. To his surprise, he was given the go-ahead. Shortly after, Acronman1 received an email detailing what had happened, and he was ecstatic, though he never really played much multiplayer or Minecraft in general after 2014. This would be where the story ends, but in 2017 hackers used a specific method to recover his transaction ID, and the account was sold twice for huge amounts. Eventually though, the public began to notice the activity and the account was locked. Since mid-2019, the people who jacked the account originally have tried to unlock it but have been unsuccessful. So sadly, Akronman, the first ever real special cape, now lies inactive with no real owner and no real chance that it will ever be recovered. Again, Fit did a great job of explaining the reasoning behind why Julian Clark's cape was created. Notch was a huge fan of actor Ray Coates, and in short, Julian put the two of them in contact with each other. Predictably, as a thank you, Notch bestowed Clark with this cape. However, the history afterwards wasn't as smooth. The account was later jacked and sold for an extremely high price to a user PC who collected these special capes, and at one point owned up to 3 of them, including a Cobalt account, Akronman, and Julian. Sadly though, as with most of these accounts, it was eventually locked. It's assumed that it was returned to Julian, but due to his inactivity, it's hard to tell. DannyBStyle was a video game music composer, one of whom's biggest fans was of course Notch. Due to him liking Danny and his past work so much and discovering he played Minecraft, he was given the cape in 2011. Much later though, in 2015, the account was taken over by a user by the name of Trey. The account was never sold as there was simply not enough time for it to change hands. Similar to Vin Name Class though, the name was changed to leave Trey's mark on the account forever, and for the short time it was available, it was seen running around on various different servers. Sadly though, NameMC eventually removed these name changes and removed the evidence of one of the most interesting pieces of Minecraft history. MrMessiah was a well-known modder back in the beta days of Minecraft. If you played much back then, you may have heard of the Better Light mod, which made the game look much cleaner and smooth. Mojang eventually caught sight of this mod and decided to implement it into their actual game, and it's now responsible for many of Minecraft's lighting and grass features. Because of how helpful Messiah was, Mojang decided to give him his own cape, and while it was discussed as early as 2011, it was never actually added until 2015 for unknown reasons. However, MrMessiah does believe that it was eventually created and added by Jeb. The history of the account from then on was as smooth as Messiah's lighting features, and it has seen no activity or locks. The Prismarine Cape is probably the most pointless out of all on this list. It was given to Drulkus after Jeb caught sight of him for entirely recreating the Prismarine block for use in one of his mods, instead of modifying the original texture. Jeb had already made the cape, so decided to give the cape to him simply because he liked his work, and had no one else to give it to. Drulkus is one of the few of the solo capes that remains active, but instead of making mods, he spends most of his time on multiplayer servers such as Blockmania doing essentially nothing. The Turtle Cape is the most recent solo cape added, and was given to Billy K for originally suggesting the idea of turtles for Minecraft. It took him over 3 years since 2014 of repeatedly bringing the idea up and getting on Mojang's good side for them to eventually add the animal in the aquatic update. He was in turn awarded what is mine and most likely many others' least favourite cape in the game. Surprisingly though, Billy does remain in ownership of the account despite many attempts, and Billy is still relatively active on the game and the Minecraft Reddit. Sadly, that's it for the list of current capes in the game. If you were to look at all the capes on NameMC, you wouldn't see anything else. But it does go slightly deeper than this. There are several temporary and unused capes that have been used in the past and never seen again. Similar to what happened with the Scrolls cape, for December 24th and 25th of 2010, the second ever cape after Mojang staff capes was applied to every account in the game. There is footage relatively easy found of the Christmas tree cape hanging around on YouTube, as at the time it was a big thing as capes had never been viewed by the general player base. Though after Christmas had ended across the world, the cape was removed from everyone's account and never used again. It was a similar story a week later on New Year's Eve of 2010, when the Firework cape was given to every account again, but then swiftly removed and never used again. Last but most definitely not least are the completely unused concept capes used for Minecon 2011. Both the Red Creeper, Blue Pickaxe, and 3 other capes were actually voted on by attendees of the convention, and as the vote was so close, Mojang decided to use the pickaxe for the 2012 event. Very few images of these capes are available anymore, but they do exist. The 3 unused capes included a moon, the unfinished imprint of a sword on a green background, and a sand block. Most of the community has no idea of the existence of these, so it's interesting to note that the vote could have easily swung a different way to make it seem as though the now famous Red Creeper cape never even existed. Before I end the video, I just want to say a big thank you to Puzze and Tail, who both helped me a lot with the fact checking and supplying screenshots and footage for this video. But other than that, please make sure to like and subscribe. I've been getting a ton of support on my videos recently, which has been really motivating me to keep pushing out videos. So if you have any ideas of what you want to see me upload in the future, please leave them in the comments. But apart from that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.